Before we get into the video, shout out to our sponsors Subside clothing brand. Subside is a new, up-and-coming clothing brand established in Bristol that is looking to add something different with their clean designs that celebrate their roots. You can find the link to all their social medias in the description of this video. From the Terrace Podcast and Subside clothing brand, it's a match made in heaven. Support the boys, support the grind, shop Subside. Hello and welcome back to the From the Terrace Podcast and to another edition of Champ Talk. Me and Regan are back talking all things Championship. And Regan, we'll get straight into it. The first game we're going to talk about was a one-sided affair, you could say. A team that we've criticised a lot recently. And they're proving us right, aren't they? Watford 6, Bristol City 0. What does this tell us? Does this tell us more about we were wrong about Watford because we have slagged off Watford in recent weeks and said that they're not particularly a side that blows us away, or does this just prove us how right we are about Bristol City and they are very quickly dropping down the league?
Well, I'm going to have a smile on my face for this video, and we'll find out why later on. But I said it again. Literally, the first thing I said, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop saying that this episode. Bristol City are just not very good at the moment. What's that? 6, 7, or
it's 7. They've lost 7 away games in a row.
Yeah, that's terrible. I've said it again. What we predicted? It's in my head now. We predicted Watford to win, and if you said otherwise, you probably were a bit silly because Watford they can just come out and be a very good team some games. That's exactly what happened. I had doubts over that they were in a bit of a slump, and I was thinking, could they come out of this? Because obviously the first time they were in a slump with a new manager, and I was unsure whether if they got bad results, they continue to post bad results and slip down the table, but obviously not. And to be fair, you come up against a really bad team at the moment on a really bad day for them, and that's exactly what you're going to get. But there's just more questions around Bristol City because, like you said, they're slipping further and further away from a team that should really be in around the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm hearing talk of, especially amongst the fan base and a few people on social media saying Bristol City outside contenders for relegation. Just not in a million years for me, because it's not the fact that you can't drop so many points. It's the fact that there's too many teams below them who are worse. Bristol City, I think it's a bit of an overreaction. They're on some terrible form. But the terrible form isn't going to stay like this bad forever, and they will eventually sort of the break out of it. There's been interviews with Steve Lansdown, the Bristol City owner, in which he's come out and said there is pressure on Dean Holden. He hasn't said anything more, but he didn't. In terms of the questioning, he seemed to very much tiptoe around it in terms of will Dean Holden be sacked if things stay the way they are. I personally don't think he will be sacked, but it didn't sound too good for him in that interview because Dean Holden is, we've got to remember, only on a 12-month contract, so he is out of contract at the end of the summer anyway, and I think we all know Dean Holden was probably appointed by Bristol City to keep them afloat during the COVID period. But yeah, it's not looking great for him. There is potential he could be sacked. Like I said, 7 away losses in a row. And I saw the stat that Bristol City have the second worst defence in the league in terms of shots faced. And they have the worst attack in the league in terms of how many shots they had. And this is on expected goals. So, that is relegation. Well, there you go. That puts them in the bottom 3. They are relegation stats. And this isn't something that's just come from the past 10 to 12 games, which have been particularly poor in. It was like that when they were near the top of the league as well. So I think we're just seeing the season catch up with Bristol City a little bit. We know they've been unlucky of injuries. And it feels like if they don't have that solidity at the back, like they've had with Alfie Mawson, who's obviously now out for the season, like you predicted he would get injured, it feels like they have very little going forward. From Arjiju, expected to be out of contract in the summer. It's quite worrying times for Bristol City in terms of their squad. So yeah, things aren't exactly great there, and this 6-0 loss isn't going to help things at all. The fan base really aren't on side of things at the moment. I know of quite a few Bristol City fans, and they seem to be holding out. They don't hate the man. They just think he's not qualified enough for the job. And I think we're starting to see that as soon as things got tough. Me even seeing calls that Lee Johnson wasn't that bad. And if they're saying that, then if that fan base is saying that, there's an issue. In terms of Watford, Regan, does it really show us anything? Or was it just Bristol City that bad?
I think it was just the fact that Bristol City are bad. I mean, I've said it again. Bristol City are losing to everyone at the moment, so beating them isn't an impressive feat. But I suppose it's good for the players to finally get a win under their belt, because they've had a few draws and a few losses, like the QPR one. So it's nice to get another 3 points, and maybe they can carry that forward to the next few games, because they were slowly starting to slip away from that top two picture. Now they're 6 points behind, even though they do have. They played 2 more games than Swansea and Norwich. But, I mean, I've said it again, why not? I mean, there's another 3 points, and you're staying in contention there. And I suppose at this point in the season, that's all you can really ask for, is to just stay in contention, because it's not actually, they're not far away from still dropping out the playoffs. So another few bad results could see them drop out of it. But just getting 3 points every so often against teams that are struggling is what will keep you where you are. So I think they'll take that, but it's not impressive at all, really.
And talking of the playoffs, we'll move on to the next game. And a team we want to give a brief mention to. We mentioned them last week, actually, in terms of could this be a realistic target for them? We sort of said it more out of, I don't know, more out of hope that there could be like some sort of playoff charge happening, but I don't think we fully believed it. But Cardiff have gone themselves another win under Mick McCarthy, and now Regan, they're sitting 7th place, somewhere that a few weeks ago they were miles away from, and they're only 6 points off of Bournemouth, and that is a Bournemouth team who are completely out of form. So how are you fancying Cardiff for the playoffs now? Do you fancy them to get in there, or do you think it's still potentially too far for them to go?
Well, like you said, Bournemouth are a team out of form, and let's be honest, Reading sometimes. I mean, you can argue that they shouldn't be there, really, because their team at the moment, because everyone predicted them to be low down, but all it takes is a few bad results, like we saw the beginning of the season, for them to just lose form completely. And Cardiff, was it 2 draws and 3 wins in their last 5? They haven't been beaten in 5 or 6 games. So that's a massive positive for them. And I mean, I say it every single week. Going towards the back end of the season, all you need is a bit of momentum. And that's exactly what I'm riding with Cardiff now. I mean, it's not the back end of the season. I'm talking about the last.
We are getting into the last sort of third of the season, to be fair.
Exactly. But I think the final stretch will be the last 7 to 8 games, etc. Those last 7, you'll need to get a lot of momentum. And to be honest, I can't see Cardiff really slowing down at all. That they controlled the game against a fairly good Coventry side, and they've seemed to do that quite a lot of games, apart from the Mick McCarthy's first game when they drew 2-2 with Barnsley, which is still a good result at Oakwell. So I can't really see this team slowing down, and with only 6 points and teams above them, very, very capable of slipping out. I'm not gonna rule them out at all. I mean, like you said a few weeks ago, they were way down there, like 13th, 14th, etc. We thought their season was over, but I mean, even going into the playoffs with that momentum, they might even go up like that, because they don't seem to be a really bad team at all. And I don't think many teams around that 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th could really beat them over 2 legs. I've got to say it.
I'm not particularly sure on that, and I get where you're coming from, because of the Mick McCarthy and the way, and he's a hard, and Cardiff are a team that they make it tough for you. But I still fancy them. They can definitely make the playoffs. I think we both knew that Mick McCarthy was a appointment that suited Cardiff, but we weren't particularly sure whether Mick McCarthy still had it. Was the sort of the reception we gave to it. And I mean, clearly he has. He's had the instant impact, and you can't really see things slowing down with that side. So they are very much more than capable of making the playoffs, and they're scoring goals, and they're playing some, well, I say decent football. It is Mick McCarthy ball, but they're direct, and sometimes if you're scoring goals, being direct isn't a bad thing. Definitely, they've risen up the table very quickly, and I think it's a lot. It shows a lot down to how the state of the league is at the moment. You have the likes of Middlesbrough, Blackburn, and Stoke who have been hovering around that playoff place for ages now, and just not really like not really been a threat to the playoffs at all. I think teams like Bournemouth and Reading have potentially got a bit comfortable in there, and it may just take the form of someone like Cardiff for Bournemouth and Reading to put their ideas up, because Reading obviously we know have lost back-to-back games now as well. It's that no one's safe yet, and yeah, Cardiff have definitely got potential to get into the playoffs, something we wouldn't have said before Mick McCarthy was appointed. The next game, Regan, is down the other end of the table. We're going to discuss. It was Wycombe 3, Huddersfield 2 at the John Smiths. I mean, we know about Wycombe. We've said they're adrift. It's a nice result for them. They're not going to stay up. It's our thought process. But Huddersfield, they're continuously getting dragged into it, Regan, and their results. I've looked over them recently. I fancy a little bet against them tonight, as I've mentioned before we started. But they're plummeting, Regan, and the teams down there are, other than Coventry and Birmingham, the teams down there are getting results, and it's not too long until they're going to have to start picking up results, or they are going to be in that bottom three. And like I said before the season, although they've surprised me and their manager's done a great job, I think their team is a team that should be getting relegated, in honesty, on paper. They've got the odd good player, but really, it does look like they're struggling, and that quality's coming through now. The signing of Richard Keogh in January, I think, just sums it up for me. He's just someone who's past his great years now. I mean, thoughts on Huddersfield, and I mean, we know we've had our say about Birmingham, who are down there, but are Huddersfield the other team you're sort of fancying to drop into that bottom three now?
With the way Coventry are going, I would be tempted to throw their name in as well, because you look at the table. If Derby have a game in hand on Huddersfield, if they beat them, if Derby win that game in hand, they'll go above Huddersfield. If Rotherham have 2 games in hand against, I know one's against QPR, which is a very winnable game, and I can't remember the other one. If they win, it might be Derby. I'm not sure. It might actually be Derby. But when they say Rotherham win both of those games, they'll go above Huddersfield as well. And just like that, Huddersfield are in 20th place. And if Sheffield Wednesday even win that game in hand, that gap is now just 2 points for them. So it's a very bad situation for them. I mean, they started off brilliantly. I was singing their praises constantly, especially their home form. But I mean, as you see now, obviously your home form is absolutely terrible because you've lost to Wycombe. So, I mean, I've said again, yeah, why not Huddersfield for relegation? They're showing no signs to me, or probably anyone, to say, yeah, that team's going to stay up, because at the moment they're absolutely terrible. And like I said, with the results, if results go against them at the teams below them, only 2 points away. That's only one game. And I don't know if teams like Sheffield Wednesday have to play Huddersfield, or a team like Birmingham still has to play them, etc., or Coventry. But just one of those results and can see Huddersfield in the bottom three. And with their form, I can't see them get out of this rate.
I think if we particularly look at those teams down the bottom, and I draw similarities to Hull City last season, where Hull, although it was a different scenario in which Hull sold all of their good players in January, and that is why they plummeted. It's a similar sort of scenario. I think pre-season people expected Hull to be down there, in all honesty. Despite having a couple of good players, no one really saw Hull as a very good side. You sort of see the same in Huddersfield. Huddersfield had a great first half of the season, but the second half of the season is just the half of the season which matters. And if you're going to continuously lose games, and you're going to go into games with teams around you in poor form, and you're going to lose them, you're going to get dragged into it. And we've seen them dragged into it from a position which we, to be honest, I think we discounted them a couple of months ago from getting relegated, although despite my early season predictions. But now you have Sheffield Wednesday. If you take their 12-point deduction away from them, they're mid-table. They're mid-table, to be honest. They're not.
It was 6 in them, wasn't it?
Yeah, 6. All right. So not mid-table, but they would be sort of starting to get away from it, wouldn't they? They wouldn't be a team that's in the mix particularly. They would be in 16th if they that 6-point deduction. You have Rotherham, who have been winning games recently. You have Derby County, who are a different side on the Wayne Rooney, and you wouldn't bet on them to go down. So you feel like Huddersfield are sort of competing. It's between Huddersfield, Coventry, and Birmingham, and potentially Rotherham as well for those sort of final 2 relegation places. And if you're in the form that Huddersfield are, other than Birmingham, probably in the worst form, you think they're going to go down. So it is definitely warranted. And I think to be two goals up against Wickham and lose 3-2 is just terrible. Wickham aren't a team to particularly score many goals, so that is really poor from them. And if I was a Huddersfield fan, I would be concerned. Anyway, Regan, we'll get on to the final game. And the final game, the unbeaten run is over. It's finally over. Brentford went 21 games unbeaten in the Championship. Regan seems to be really smirky about it. And although I understand why, he seems to think I cared about that unbeaten record. I don't care about any unbeaten record as long as Brentford are in the Premier League. I really don't care. But we have to address it. Brentford did lose 2-0 in the Sunday game at home to Barnsley. And I think I'll address it first. In honesty, the only reason I expected maybe Brentford to win was because I thought Barnsley would be tied from that FA Cup encounter they had on Thursday. Barnsley were, I'm going to say it, were the most relentless side we played this season. They pressed from the front, and although Reading did that to us, like I mentioned in midweek, Reading did eventually tire and Brentford picked them apart. Barnsley didn't tire. Brentford didn't play well, but Barnsley pressed from the front, didn't let Brentford play from the back. And when you don't let Brentford play from the back early on, they don't have the confidence. You want to stop Brentford getting that confidence on the ball. They did exactly that. Brentford barely carved open a chance the whole game, really. Barnsley thoroughly deserved their win, winning 2-0. They got the goals at the perfect times, you could argue. Another early goal, Brentford conceding first, is something I want to address. And then a goal right at the beginning of the second half, which pretty much killed the game. I guess we sort of can mention Brentford, but we've talked about them a lot recently. I think the obvious thing is just they need to bounce back on Wednesday against QPR. It's not the end of the world, is it? You're going to eventually lose. You've lost a 21-game unbeaten run. But if we mention Barnsley, they're 12th now. They're on 39 points. They have a game in hand. If they win that game in hand, they're in 7th and they're 4 points off of Bournemouth. Are they in that conversation for you?
It's hard to say no at the moment because the form that they're on and the results they're picking up against teams that they should be losing to. You can't really say no, but you look at but it's also hard to say yes because the whole thing around Barnsley is it's almost like a Leicester City story because they were literally they survived on the last day and literally in the exact same circumstance as what it was at the weekend, and the very next season they're denying all expectations. I mean, I said it again. When Struber left, I was like, oh, okay, they're going to be in serious trouble now because I thought Struber was the man that kept them up. But since then, they've been absolutely fantastic. And I mean, I'll say it again. It's hard to say no that they're not going to make the playoffs. But you look at their team and the teams around them that on paper are better than them. It's hard to make a case to say yes. But I'm not going to make a prediction yet.
I mean, that's fair enough. It's a crazy league and there's been so many changes. I mean, Barnsley are a side that they are a side that have been inconsistent. I mean, that's why they're 12th. But they are going to. But the teams around them are very inconsistent as well. So there's no reason why they can't make that push. It's whether they can get their consistency. I don't think they need to worry about teams around them because those teams are definitely dropping a lot of points. If Barnsley can keep up playing like that every week, they will 100% make the playoffs. Will they though? There's a reason they're 12th. We'll have to wait and see. But Barnsley, fair play, stopping Brentford's unbeaten run and playing very well and deservedly so. It wasn't a game in which Brentford failed to take chances. Barnsley thoroughly deserved their win. Regan, time for predictions. We're finally over from reviewing the week's action. It was a better week for me, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, and it's funny because
we're back.
Like I mentioned in the last episode, I did championship predictions for a website, and it's safe to say that I probably won't do that ever again.
Yeah, you put more thought into it, and you did worse.
Exactly. The key to succeed is basically just don't think about what's going to happen and just say something. It wasn't it was. I've just looked at it. I mean, there was only 10 games because the Rotherham game and the Sheffield Wednesday game were called off. I got 4 of them right, and Bill got 6 of them right, which was interesting,
Yeah, he
especially
did.
the Forest Bournemouth draw and the Derby win against Middlesbrough. Cheers, Neeskins, for scoring though, my guy. Yeah, I'm not worried. Still, the lead is still 18 points. I'm not worried at all.
Sure.
I'm confident of where I am, but I'll say the numbers anyway, so you can put them in a nice little graphic. You're on 130. I can't remember how many fixtures there have been this season. It's probably quite a bit below 50%.
Yeah.
And I'm on 148, which is probably still quite a bit below 50%. So my question is, why do you listen to us?
Well, I might as well just stop there, shouldn't we? Anyway, we've just addressed that we are both terrible predictions. So here are our predictions for the next game week in the Sky Bet Championship. Regan, 7 o'clock kickoff tonight. Preston, Watford at Deepdale. Watford off the back of that 6-0 win. Preston winning the Lancashire Derby, a result that me and you both didn't expect. What are we saying?
I think it's hard. It's hard to not back a team that have just won 6-0, even though it is against a pretty bad team. And Preston at Deepdale haven't been great recently. I mean, they lost to Rotherham, and they obviously had that really boring draw with Reading. Yeah, I can't look past the team. There's just won 6-0. I'm going to have to back Watford on this one.
Yeah, even though I do think it is a lot down to the team they played. I mean, especially when you see the goals, you have to back a team that's won 6-0. You just can't. You're not. And although Preston have thrown up surprises, they're still where they are in the league for a reason. They're not top side. Watford are a better team than them, so we'll go for Watford as well. Stoke, Sheffield Wednesday. Regan, Stoke, a team just. When are they going to find any sort of form? Let Norwich get back to winning ways, and Norwich haven't scored for a while, and then put 4 past Stoke against Sheffield Wednesday, who in different results recently, some good, some bad. So, what are we thinking for this one? To be honest, I think I'm going to go first in this. I just can't see Stoke getting points at the moment. In all honesty, they're terrible. I'm going to back a Sheffield Wednesday win. Stoke just terrible at the moment. Terrible.
Yeah, I completely agree that I can't see Stoke I can't see Stoke pick up any wins. That's the issue. They've picked up some boring draws like Stoke are renowned for the past few seasons. And Sheffield Wednesday obviously didn't play at the weekend, and then they beat Wickham the week before. So, but they're both very inconsistent. Well, Stoke aren't inconsistent; they're consistently bad. Sheffield Wednesday are a bit inconsistent at times, so it's hard to call. So I think because it is hard to call, and I can't see Stoke winning, and because Stoke just will probably shut up shop. I think it's going to be a draw because I can't see Stoke scoring really many goals at the moment because they haven't really scored any since someone.
Yeah, since someone, as you say every week. The next game is at Ashton Gate. It's Bristol City versus Reading. The second game in what is a tricky run for Bristol City. They didn't exactly pass the first game with flying colours. How are they going to do here, Regan? Because although losing 6-0 to Watford, Reading have lost their last 2 back-to-back. How are you expecting this one to go? Are Reading going to get back on form?
This is once again quite a hard game to call because these are 2 teams that aren't really on the best of runs right now. Maybe this is the time where Reading are starting to play like where we thought they were going to be at the beginning of the season, because to lose to Millwall, not many teams can say that they've lost to Millwall this season because they're just drawing with Millwall, and obviously the loss to Brentford, and then that really bad draw with Stoke. So I don't know. I think Reading are a very hard team to call because they may have slipped. They may have gone back to their ways of last season, or they may just be another blip in form. Whereas Bristol City, can I really predict them to win at the moment? Probably not. I think it's going to be quite a hard one to call. I think I don't really see Bristol City draw that much though, which is a bit odd. I don't know what to do. Well, I'm going to I'll throw one out. I'm going to say Bristol City are going to win.
Well, I'm going to completely disagree. I think Reading, they have had a blip recently, but like I said, they didn't play bad in that game against Brentford, and I think they're like the Championship isn't fantastic this season in terms of teams being consistent. Reading have had blips before in this season; they've came back from them. I think the same's going to happen again. The likes of Lucas João, Elise, and Ijara up against Bristol City's defence, which just leads 6 and has been terrible for a while now. I just can't see it coping. I don't really even have to put in the best sort of performance. I just think that front line against Bristol City's defence is just a recipe made for disaster in terms of Bristol City are concerned. So I'm going to back Reading to win at Ashton Gate. Middlesbrough, Huddersfield. Huddersfield, as we've touched on terrible form. Middlesbrough not in such good form themselves. But Middlesbrough fancy themselves in this game, wouldn't they? If they're going to have any game to get back on track.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, Middlesbrough aren't on the best run. They've only won one of their last 6 games, and that includes a loss to Derby, Brentford, and a right draw against Norwich. So I suppose that's a positive. But yeah, Huddersfield at the moment, like we've touched on quite a few times already, just one of the worst teams in the league right now on form, and no way can I back them at the moment, especially against a Neil Warnock team, which will probably score quite a few against them if Wickham are scoring 3 in all honesty. So I'm going to have to say Middlesbrough.
You go Middlesbrough. Okay, yeah, I'm going to join your Middlesbrough. As I said, I think I've got a bet on them against Huddersfield tonight. Wickham versus Derby. Simple as a Derby win, Regan. Wickham did get 3 points on Saturday.
That's probably a freak 3 points if I'm being honest. I could possibly see a draw out of this one, maybe a 1 or a 0-0. But I think to be safe, the safer bet is to say that Derby are going to win. So yeah, that's what I'm going to go for.
Wickham don't tend to win a lot of games back to back, so I'm going to go with Derby as well. And then the final game on Tuesday night is Luton versus Cardiff. Cardiff, the informed team. Luton, not particularly at the moment, although beating Birmingham 1-0. But if you beat Birmingham 1-0, it's not much of an achievement, is it?
Well, so the answer to your question is no, it's not at all. I've just seen here, Luton have only played once at Kenilworth, or twice in 2021, which is quite baffling, to be quite honest. And that was the one I've got here is the draw against Huddersfield. I don't know why I'm dilly-dallying so much on this. Yes, I always say the thing is, it's a cold Tuesday night at the Kenilworth Stadium. It's Nathan Jones's time. But Cardiff are just too good right now. I can't not say them. I could possibly see a draw again, like similar to what the Cardiff-Barnsley game was. But once again, it's safer to go for Cardiff, so that's what I'm going to go for.
Yeah, you won't see me dilly-dallying on this one. Cardiff win. It's Cardiff win. At Kenilworth, they're on phenomenal form. Wednesday night we go into now and at St Andrews. It is Coventry versus Norwich. Coventry alongside Huddersfield, probably one of the least form sides in the division, against Norwich who just put 4 past Stoke. Simple as an away win, Regan.
I'm really thinking about this one because once again I don't tend to not back Coventry as St Andrews, even though it is against Norwich, because their home form compared to their away form is literally the polar ends of the spectrum. So I could, in my mind, I could see maybe a 2-1 Coventry last minute winner, etc. But once again, I need to think about who the better team are, and I think getting a win under their belts, Emi Buendia back, etc. I think that's going to put the wind under Norwich's sails again. They're back up top, and I think that they're going to stay there for this one. So Norwich are going to win.
I'm going to back Norwich as well. Simple as Norwich have put 4 past Stoke, and Emi Buendia is back in the team. When Buendia plays, Norwich win. Millwall, Birmingham at the Den. Millwall just won 2-1 at Reading. Birmingham in terrible form. But Millwall haven't particularly been great at the Den so far this season, despite winning 4-1 against Sheffield Wednesday. There not too long ago. Regan, how are you thinking this one's going to go? Is it time for insane logic or no? Common knowledge, as we like to call it.
Yeah, it's now called common knowledge because it's it's not a surprise when it happens, really, is it? I mean, you messaged me the other day. Mill have 14 draws this season and come up against a team that can't really seem to buy a win. It seems written in the stars that it's going to be a draw, but Mill was starting to score a few more goals as of late, and Birmingham just have a habit of conceding them. So I'm going to say that Millwall are going to win.
I'm going to back Millwall as well, just because, Millwall have won at Reading, but it's not particularly of a band. Like I said, it's very weird. Outside of the top four, Millwall have the least losses in the division, but it's those draws that they can't convert to wins. So you would probably back a draw, but Birmingham have been so poor recently. They're not going to, just can't see them threatening anyone, to be honest, at the moment. So I'm going to back Millwall as well. Now reading the next one's West London derby, Loftus Road, QPR versus Brentford. Are Brentford going to return to winning ways? They do like a win in a West London derby, especially against QPR. Well, QPR going to upset the little promotion party that Brentford think they've got going on?
Believe it or not, this is possibly one of the hardest QPR Brentford games to call, because both of them have picked up the same amount of points from the last 5 games, which is quite unheard of, especially for QPR. But when QPR were playing well, they had quite a big fixture congestion, which allowed them to just rebound off good results. Like it went midweek weekend, etc. And they've had a few games cancelled, and they haven't played in like 10, 11 days by the time the game happens, which I think is going to slow their momentum down a bit. And coming up against a Brentford team that are out for vengeance, essentially, because they want to get their wins back on track. And I mean, they could be top by the end of this week again if the Norwich result doesn't go in their way. I think Brentford will. Yeah, I'm going to say Brentford, but I don't think it's going to be as one-sided as past West London derbies, but bees nonetheless.
No, I mean, the thing I'm worried about is QPR's recent form, obviously, and QPR can score a goal. Charlie Austin's in the team. It's probably dead on cert, but he's going to score. Especially Brentford's. The one thing that's worrying about Brentford is their constant conceding of the goal first at the moment. I think, although I've not been one who particularly backs the decision, I think we will see it soon now, because it's starting to get ridiculous. I think we will see Winston Reid starting to make a couple of appearances in defence, because something's got to change with Brentford's constant conceding the goals first. Maybe is it a lack of leadership back there at the moment? I don't know. Ethan Pinnock has really struggled recently. A great defender, but he's playing on the wrong side because of the absence of Pontus Jansson. Maybe we need Winston Reid just to go in there next to him for a couple of games and shore things up. But at the end of the day, although I am worried about that, and QPR are a team you don't want to go 1-0 down to, because they'll play a ball around you and they're very comfortable. So Brentford are better than QPR. Brentford turn up for West London derbies. I'm backing Brentford. They Brentford win West London derbies. It's what happens. Even against Fulham, Regan, they win. You can't even deny that, because it happened this season. And then, the next game is Swansea versus Nottingham Forest. Now, Forest are in good form, Regan. I know Swansea are up there and are flying, and Swansea are the team that everyone envies at the moment. Forest are doing all right. Can Forest cause a little bit of upset? Can they take a point off of Swansea? What are you saying?
Well, first of all, Brentford obviously don't show up in West London derbies, because in their biggest game in their history, it was a West London derby, and they lost. But they're better than QPR. QPR are still the second best team in West London, but they're worse. But onto the more important games, and not some irrelevant sides. Swansea obviously didn't play at the weekend because Sheffield Wednesday and Hillsborough surprisingly don't have heating on their pitch. So fair play to that. And then Swansea, it'd be interesting to see how they play, because obviously they had their win under their sails and they went to the FA Cup with their strong team, but then they got humbled by Manchester City. But we would have backed them against Sheffield Wednesday, let's be honest. And Forest, they're getting a few results, but once again, they're still not impressive. Draw against an out of form Bournemouth team, a win against Wickham, a win against Coventry, who were both out of form. It still ain't great. I mean, it's points nonetheless, but it's not as emphatic as what it could be. I'm gonna have to say Swansea because in the league they just seem to be pretty good.
Pretty good. They seem to be brilliant. I'm actually going to go controversial here. I think Swansea did beat Nottingham Forest not too long ago in the FA Cup 5-1, but I think completely different teams. Now Swansea, like you said, beat by Man City in the FA Cup recently, had their game against Sheffield Wednesday postponed. You could say much needed rest, work in their favour, or you could say they're out of league action for a while. Are they going to start quite slow? And the team you don't want to start slow against is Nottingham Forest because they're growing confidence and they're a team that under Houghton recently haven't been conceding too many goals. I think Forest can nick something here. I'm not going to say a win, but I think this could be a very low scoring ball draw. I'm going to back Forest. A lot out of hope, but there is a little bit of logic to it. So I'm going to go for Forest to nick a point at Swansea. Penultimate game, Regan. Barnsley versus Blackburn. Two teams you just can't call, whatever. So, I mean, we'll skip past this point of us saying two unpredictable sides, two sides. Who's going to get the points, Regan? Who's going to get the points?
I thought you were going to say we're just going to skip over this fixture and move on because we
move on. There's no point. Yeah.
Oh, fair enough then. It's just two teams that, like you said, are just almost impossible to call. It's Wednesday. It's a Wednesday night. It's going to be cold and it's going to be at Oakwell. Oh God, this is really awful to call. I can't decide. So I'm going to say
this prediction. Like you can't lose with this prediction because no one expects anyone to be able to call this game. So.
I am going to. If Barnsley play like that against Brentford, play the way against Brentford against Blackburn, they'll win easily. But we literally mentioned it. They rarely do that, like a few games in a row. Oh no!
I literally said this before. I said, let's not let this waffle. They're unpredictable.
I don't know.
Well, maybe I'll help you along with this. I'm going to go Barnsley.
Draw.
Oh God, the bottler's choice. And then the final game is Bournemouth versus Rotherham. Still managerless Bournemouth against Paul Warne's Rotherham at the Vitality. Bournemouth win, Regan?
No. Yeah, Bournemouth. Yeah, I was thinking about the possibility of Rotherham because they won a few games, but Bournemouth just seem to be picking up some fairly good results.
I'm going to go with Bournemouth too. Rotherham obviously can cause some problems. I wouldn't be surprised if they do, but Bournemouth you have to back in this fixture really just because of the equality they have. That is our predictions over with a full fixture list this week, unless there's some games late called off. I hope not. There shouldn't be. I think that we're starting to get some warmer weather now, Regan. The days are getting longer. That frosty week last week is in the past. I've went on a couple of walks this week and it's been toasty. God, I feel like I've been in a.
I think it's also because Rotherham are playing and not playing at home, so their game will probably go ahead for once.
Yeah, that is our championship predictions over, and that is this episode of Champ Talk over. If you did enjoy the video, remember to like it, subscribe to the From the Terrace podcast YouTube channel, leave us a rating on iTunes, follow us on Spotify, and we'll see you in the next Champ Talk.